Good morning. It's time for Morning Thunder. I'm having a little trouble since I moved, recovering from the move itself, so please bear with me while I get into the swing of some sort of routine here. I hope to do these twice a week. An announcement! Yes, and I'll put this in the description as well. Our first sequel to Rise in Lucidity and Master Anxiety, which is entitled Master Your Mind and Rise, is now available at our store at crackedpotpublishing.com. Turn this down a little bit more. It's much better than Rise. I'm shocked at what Michael does through me when I get out of his way. Let me do that now. In the beginning was the Word. You are a godling. You are all godlings. Extensions of God. There's nothing here but God. You are God, aware of itself. But you've mistaken yourself for an idea of who you are. Our words are our summonings, our spells. We hypnotize ourselves with our words. They are the lenses through which we experience and create the dream of the world, which we call our lives, our stories. Come on, Bindu, I'm busy. This is why silence is golden. Another reason why silence is golden is if you want your words to have power, you must first come from your speech and your thoughts. All the words you do not will to empower. Because thoughts are essentially words. Our words are triggered when you think. For so long as you are not consciously choosing your words and you're therefore unconsciously wielding your godly estate with your attention focused through the words you choose. For so long as you are doing that, Earth Venue, which is conscious and knows the degree to which you are conscious of your own power, changes the venue's physics in order to create what we call synchronicities and miracles. In accordance with your level of lucidity and how you wield your will, how consciously or unconsciously you do it. If you are still allowing words and thoughts to issue from your mouth and be ruminated upon with your mind, and you're just allowing that and not observing it and not exerting any control over it, you are not lucid in the dream of the world. An Earth Venue, which is, again, conscious and protecting us from our spoken words and our unspoken words and our thoughts. Earth Venue, protecting us, cannot allow us the full experience of our godly estate, lest the words we unconsciously think and say materialize, manifest in our experience as events that are destructive to our peace and our lucidity. So Earth is trying to gradually waken us to our power, to show us where our power is. And when I say earth venue or earth, right, in this context, I mean the entire world. And by the world, I mean our experience of the world as having a universe around it. So words are very critically important to your experience of your godly estate, and in order to tap your godly estate, you have to become conscious of the words and thoughts that you are focusing your attention, which is your godly mojo. It's not that just where your attention goes, energy flows. Yes, that's true, but that's because the attention is the energy. The attention is your godly estate. That's why anxiety has a stranglehold on you the more attention you pay to it. And believe me, I, as the temporal incarnation, or intarnation, as Michael says, Colleen Callahan, have experienced huge amounts of anxiety in my life. It started when I was about 14. 7th or 8th grade, I don't know what that turns into. 7th or 8th grade. Anxiety gets all of its power over your experience from your attention to it. It's a circuit, a cascade of chemical changes in your body that we consider very unpleasant and scary. And so humans tend to focus on it, thinking, oh no, what's that, not that. And of course, when you think not that, you get that. So any words you focus on, anything you focus your attention on, as we know, is going to grow to fill up your experience. And there's great power in this understanding, because if you realize what it means you can wield your will to focus your attention to either create good things, or you can unconsciously allow your attention to be overridden by the mind that you think is you, that you call the ego, and which attacks your peace. So the key is learning who you are, so you realize you're not your mind, which means you have power over it. The way you exert power over your mind is by being lucid, present, conscious, abiding in that as you choose your words and choose what you allow your mind to focus upon. Now, sometimes the mind will just run away with loops of emotionally charged self-talk. And you don't have to really fight that if you're not up to it. In fact, it can be quite illuminating if you just stay present and watch it. Observe it and allow it. But observe and realize that you are not that mind, you are not that self-talk. And then perhaps you'll be able to turn your attention elsewhere. But the remedy for worry is imaginifestation. And that is intentionally, consciously wielding your will to focus your attention on the outcomes you do want to create, instead of borrowing from a future you don't want. Let's remember that worry and anger don't do anything to stop the future you don't want from occurring. It just wrecks the today that you presently have, the moment you have. But the reason now is so powerful is because now is the only time you can choose. It will always be now when you choose to do otherwise and not allow your attention to be hijacked by the mind. When your attention is hijacked by the mind, you have a tendency to identify with it, to think that it is you. So you have to notice the difference between you and the mind. And when you're unhappy and anxiety, any kind of unpleasant disturbance, I do this to say, it's a word, it's a belief, it's a belief. You're calling it that, and so that's the lens you see it through. It just is. Okay? If you allow yourself to be identified with that unpleasantness, you're going to suffer. When you see the difference, and when you're in any kind of discomfort from your mind's behavior, is the best time to see that you are not your mind, because clearly it's attacking your peace. So who are you? You're not the mind. The mind is attacking your peace. Now, you have authority with your will and your higher mind. You have total authority over the lower mind, which you constructed unconsciously. That is to say, you did not observe yourself in the process of creating this belief system that makes up the mind. So let's consider for a moment the idea of the ego, because it is an idea. Just like the term evolution is coined to encapsulate an entire theory, a model of how something works, so too the idea of ego, the word ego, is to encapsulate a set of concepts. The ego does not exist at all. Ego is just a construct. There is no ego to kill. There is no ego to set aside. The ego is a set of behaviors demonstrating the functioning of the mind, observed by Freud, who coined the term ego to describe the behaviors he was observing through his cognitive lenses, and from which he was inferring the actions going on in the mind. So the ego is a whole lot of ephemeral projection, really, of Freud. So the reason this is important is because people, when we say nowadays, we've taken it to be a real thing, and it's even been reified. People have construed it to have motivations and wanting to survive, and there is some truth to the idea that a concept can become, through huge amounts of energy invested in it, that it can become more real, certainly more real as an electromagnetic reality, I would say, in the ethereal realms. There's some truth to that idea, but none of that is really important. What's important is that you discover you, and that you're aware that when I say you're identified with your ego, I mean you're identified with your body, your story, your mind that is attacking your peace most often. It's important for you to realize that to some degree the whole ego, having been popularized in such a way that people think that it's a real thing with an agenda of its own that wants to survive, creates the illusion of something to battle. And there is nothing to battle. That is just like the concept of evolution. It's a constellation of observed principles and then a theory about how they're interrelated, what the relationships are between them, these behaviors. And that's based in inferences about the mind. So I don't want you to reify the concept of ego. It does not help you disentangle yourself from the idea that you are your body, or you are your possessions, or you are your roles, or you are your story, or you're even your mind that's attacking your peace. You are none of that. You are consciousness itself having this experience, which is being created by the words you choose and the thoughts you fix your attention on, which serve as the lens through which you create the dream you experience and call your life. I want you to be lucid about that in the dream of the world so that you have more empowerment over your experience. That is what lucidity is about. So when you say get rid of your ego or set your ego aside or kill your ego, people tend to look then based on those words, not realizing everything I've just said about what the ego really isn't. People tend to not really understand what they have to do. They get distracted. This makes it sound so much more complicated than it really is. Lucidity is about abiding in constant observation of the way you think and speak to yourself, the constant abiding in who you are when no one is looking, and being aware of that, being self-reflective of that. And then becoming the magician in your life and manifesting the experience you want becomes a function of disciplining yourself in terms of what you say to yourself consciously. I'm assuming in lucidity now, you're conscious all the time. And being conscious all the time, you begin to observe how much your words affect your experience. If your mind is running away with a bunch of emotionally charged self-talk, you, consciousness, suddenly be observing it. Hey, I'm suffering. I'm uncomfortable. I should wake up now and pay attention. I should be lucid. I observe that I'm suffering. I have power over this. Now, at that moment, you choose what you want to create by focusing your attention on a project in your mind. I like to use what I call a triumph scenario, where all my aspirations have been realized and I am joyous naturally, and I put my attention into being in that triumph scenario as though it were all around me. Not like I'm looking in through a window, but like it is my present reality. For a moment, I was just swimming with the shark behind me as I said that, remembering the water around me, the feeling of it. You have the power to put yourself anywhere you like. It's a matter of focusing your attention and manifesting the experience. I hope that makes it a little clearer how important your word choices are. Now, a viewer asks a question, and thank you for the question. How to get more readily, commonly, constantly in touch with your guide? Well, I suspect there are different cases than my own. That is, for me, my guide is my higher self. I know the higher self, the awareness that got you into this dream experience, the awareness you are up several dimensions higher in awareness, is your higher self. Some people claim to have angels as their guides. Well, that's fine. I'm sure that can happen. But I know everyone has a higher self, and I assume, as in my case, their higher self is their guide, or at least one of them. My higher self, Michael, has lives in many venues. I'm just one of them. But there's been a lot of, over the years, because I have listened inward for his commentary and guidance and questions designed to make me think differently than I habitually do. After years of that, I have become aware of some of his other incarnations in other venues. The best time to start listening to your guide is when you're a toddler. The second best time to start listening to your guide is right now. Your guide will prompt you with more and more frequency and consistency, and more understandably, intelligibly. That is, you develop a relationship with your guide because the guide speaks to you in your own memories, in associations and associative complexes of interrelated ideas. So you develop an understanding of what these symbols and ideas mean to you. They're the language of your own mind and heart. And the more you practice, the more you come to trust your knowing about what these symbols, words are all symbols, all of these are symbols, what they mean to you specifically and what your guide is trying to say. That becomes clearer and clearer the more you practice, so that's why I say the best time is as early as possible. As soon as you then realize that it's something you should be doing, that is, you become lucid to that concept and begin undertaking it consciously, lucidly, that's the better. That's fantastic. And if wanting to hear your guide induces in you a lucid pursuit to that end, take note of the lucidity, because that's the most important thing, and the second most important thing is your guide, and your relationship, I should say, with your guide. Those are the two things that I really want to help everyone with. First, important, seek ye first the kingdom of God. That is lucidity. It is within you. When you know yourself as a godling, as the godling that you are, I mean experience it gnostically, an awareness of seeing how what you do with your will and your attention and your focus reverberates out into the world, into your experience of it. I want you lucid, and I want you taking control of all that. That's the number one thing, the kingdom of God, and the rest will be added unto you. The next thing is your relationship with your guide, your higher self, because what is outside of your, as an incarnation, temporal experience is in the repository of knowing of the guide, of eternity, which the guide has full access to because he's a conscious part of it. So you reserve roughly half of your attention. I wouldn't say more than that is a good idea. The world is pretty attention-intensive experience. But you don't focus on especially what you don't want that's happening or seems to be happening in the world. You don't focus on that. Unless your life is in imminent peril, in which case you're not really focusing on, I don't want you to focus on the, oh no, I want you to focus on, this is how I'm going to get out of this. This is how I'm going to function here. Focus intensely on being effective. Otherwise, reserve about half of your attention for what's going on inside you, inside your mind space. What thoughts rise, what associations rise, what emotions rise with them. What does it remind you of? All of this is being lifted to your awareness by the guide. Constantly, it's always happening, you're just not paying attention to it. So you have to start feeding your attention, energy, to that inner exchange. This makes it essentially louder, that is more discernible against the backdrop of all the background chatter that's going on in mind space, because there is a lot of background chatter. Your nervous system's kind of general buzz and hum as it takes in what's going on around you in the world and begins to fret over it typically. Focus on that one voice. It's always reassuring. When I say voice, it's usually without words, but it comes as a feeling of presence. That's not really usually the constant experience. Presence, like really strong, occasionally that will happen. And people go, oh, big spiritual experience. Well, hang on. Okay, good. Glad you had that. Now, you want to make that an ongoing thing. The presence has announced itself to you in a more or less spectacular way so that it could get your attention. It wants you to pay chronic attention to that inner dialogue. And this presence that I'm referring to, the one you want to listen to, always counsels you to be at peace, always counsels you to love, always counsels you to forgive, always counsels you to show and build your integrity and do the right thing because it's the right thing. Not because of any secondary gain, because the gain of your integrity, the polishing of it, the perfecting of it, is the prize. That and your lucidity. That's what you use your lucidity to do. It's to perfect yourself consciously. You begin to shift your priorities away from what the world esteems to be successes and to what brings you peace, what brings you mastery over your experience, what brings you mastery over improving and guiding the relationships with others, human and otherwise, in your life. Also feeding your field, because when you stop focusing on negative, angry, judgmental, comparing self-talk that makes you unhappy, and again use your unhappiness as a clue that you've lost your lucidity and wake up in the dream of the world. Notice that you're giving attention to an energy, therefore, to what you do not want instead of cultivating what you do want. So, getting your lucidity, attaining it, and staying lucid in the dream of the world, you will then be also consciously directing your attention to that layer of awareness where the guide speaks to you. If you're entertaining a bunch of angry, vengeful, judgmental thoughts about somebody who has done whatever they did that offended or hurt you, you're not attending to your guide. You're putting attention and energy, in fact, into what you do not want to experience. Your guide's voice in mind space is usually wordless, although they can develop even a voice that you might hear as a song that won't stop playing. It's in the same way you hear a song that won't stop playing in your head. You hear the voice of your guide. Sometimes. Less often than this inner exchange that's entirely conceptual and symbolic. If you think of these associated memories and emotions as like leaves being caught up in a leaf devil by the wind, your guide's voice is the gust that stirred them. So the guide speaks to you in the language of these, your own thoughts and associations, and you have to then, like tarot cards, okay? Then you have to learn through interacting with your guide, and it happens pretty readily if you learn them. Just trust in it. You'll know what the feeling means to you. If you will practice putting your attention at that level of awareness consciously, lucidly, this does two things. It makes the guide aware that you want the guide's input. The guide will not usurp your will. It loves you perfectly. It's constantly available, but if you stop listening to it or resist it or dislike it or reject it, it will make suggestions less often and less intensely, unless your life is in imminent peril. So I suggest to you that you start out by greeting your guide at night in bed, just as you're, I like to do it as I'm going to sleep. As you're relaxing into theta state, down out of beta into alpha, and hopefully a little bit lower yet, you keep your lucidity, dragging it down into your dreams by every second, staying the observer of what's passing through your mind. And you can see yourself spiral down into the dream. You can see your attention spiral down into the dream worlds you're creating or visiting, by noticing that you lose your awareness of that parade of associations. You then fall asleep and lose lucidity. Same thing happens in the world. You focus your attention, and the thoughts run away with you. And pretty soon you're identified with the thoughts, rather than as the consciousness observing the thoughts. Rather than that, you are like a rider on the back of a runaway pony, as you lose your identity to the ride, the experience, instead of taking charge of the experience. So as you're laying down in bed at night to rest, circling back now, speak to your guide. You don't have to use words. In fact, it's better to speak in the language of your heart, to focus your attention on the feelings you have about wanting guidance, wanting that companionship, that fellowship, that communion. Focus on those feelings. And on your guide at the same time. And that itself summons the guide's attention. And if it helps to use words, do so. But it's most important that you feel the feelings rather than speak the words. It is the feelings that change your electromagnetic field. So your field determines, it's like a stream of energy that you, because your field matches that stream of energy, are then caught up in. It's the best way I can describe it, but you have the ability to retune your field by sinking into the emotions of what you will to experience, sinking your attention, what you will to experience, instead of focusing on what you do not will to experience. So focus thusly on what you will to experience with your guide, and let the emotions pour through your being, altering your field so that you are stepping into a different stream of energetic flow, one in which you are in constant conversation with your guide. Let the guide know your will. It really helps if you love the guide, if you just realize the guide loves you, and return that and ask, since it's been waiting all this time for you to even notice it was there, and it's been trying to help you all along while you rebuffed it or ignored it, and it has never left you. Expressing gratitude for that puts you in tune energetically with the stream where that is happening all the time. And this is the way you step from one stream of energy into another experience, another stream of energy. So put yourself in that energetic stream of the gratitude for that loving guide. Ask for more of it. Experience, create, manifest, summon the experience of gratitude because it's already happening. And keep stepping into that stream moment by moment. When you notice you're suffering, use it to make you lucid and realize you're not tuning yourself to the right stream anymore. But maintain a constant, diligent, about half of your attention to what's going on at that level of consciousness where the voice for truth, which is the voice for love, compassion, charity, etc., resides. That is the voice of your guide. Follow it. Stop saying, yes, yes, I know, but the world. Just do it. And realize what this means. It means, in fact, there is no little I to have to be put out. You just have to realize you are not that little I. We love you all.